Today we're going to be tying a March Brown Para-Wulff pattern. A few minor changes to it. Not going to use calf tail in the wing like a traditional wolf style pattern, but we're actually going to use sparkle emerger, a variety of antron. Going to add a couple other flotation points as well, which we'll display here in just a second. So I've got a TMCO 100 or Daiichi 1180 standard dry fly hook, sizes 14 through 10 depending on where you are in the hatch. 12 is a good all-around number though. So I'm going to lay down a thread base of 6/0 dark brown uni thread all the way down to the bend of the hook there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stack some moose body hair. We're going to use about 6 to 8 hairs, and that way we have some room to abuse the fly and still have it be operational. I'll stack that. In order to maintain the proper taper in the body and also improve flotation when I'm tying with moose body, I like to wrap it down the shank down to approximately, the halfway, three-quarter, two-third mark, somewhere in there. That way you've got a nice transition. You don't have a bunch of tie-in bulk at the back end of it.
And those were relatively loose wraps to keep it from flaring.
Yeah, you don't want to crank it down so hard that it sticks up, at an odd angle. I've got some tan 2 mil foam here. I've sliced off a small piece. You could use a razor blade. Scissors also work. Tie that in right there at the back end. Now, foam's kind of nice because we can do a bunch of compression on it and still not build up that much bulk. We'll stretch it relatively tight. Make up a nice looking body there. Cut that off. Just tying the end a little bit there. So I've got some tan sparkly merger yarn here. When you first get the hank of this material, it'll be a little bit more compartmentalized. There'll be individual strands. It'll be a little bit easier to pick out. So, but as you travel around and do different stuff, you tend to get matted a little bit more. So I'm down to about 2, I would say here, strands. So I'm going to tie kind of a Para-Wulff style wing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this piece of material, have about an inch or so of working material. I'm going to tie it right in the middle. That way I'll have about 2 strands essentially that are about an inch and a quarter, something like that in length. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to parachute wrap that antron. I've been doing a little trick with some Zap-A-Gap, where I'll take just a drop on my bodkin and I'll just make a little touch there to the post to kind of help stiffen it up. A lot of people have problems with those posts kind of wanting to weeble wobble on you. This makes a huge difference. As you can see, it instantly hardens the thing up. With antron in particular, it tends to travel up the follicles too, so once it makes contact, you should be in pretty good shape. I'm going to take so we tied it in half. I've got the 2 separate sections kind of separated here, and I'm just going to take the thread and kind of wrap each one of those individually to kind of get it to cock off to the side.
Tough to do without that Zap-A-Gap.
A little bit tougher. It definitely can be done. Way simpler to do it with the Zap. So now we've got 2, nice outstretched wings there. We're going to grab a Now I've got a really nice Cree neck here that I've been working with. You know, obviously I think that's probably about the best for this situation. Very difficult, or can be very difficult to get your hands on. So tan dyed grizzly will work really well. You can also go kind of almost Adams style, where you mix a brown hackle and a grizzly hackle. That also works. The Cree is really nice. If you can get it, by all means do, and for March Browns in particular, it's just a perfect color. So I prepped my feather, stripped off some of the barbules on the side there to expose the stem. I usually tie a little bit of the stem on the right and a little bit of stem on the left of the post. I've got some Stalcups Micro Fine Dry Fly Dub in tan. It's a dry fly dubbing, so we're going to get good floatability out of it. We're going to dub up the thorax just to help build up a little bit of bulk and give some more flotation. Now we're tied in, ready to do the parachute style hackle on it. Grab that with our pliers. So you can adjust your hackle wraps, obviously according to the water that you're going to fish. You know, you might go heavy hackle, one spot, lighter hackle.
And you went up the post, and now you're coming back down.
Coming back down, correct. So then we'll just tie that feather off. It's always one of the tricky parts on tying parachutes. So I just come over the top of that feather, over the top of the shank, and then I'm just going to take my fingers, everything, get all the hackle, all the wing out of the way, build up a small dark brown head. So I can let go of my hackle pliers now. That feather's good and tied down. Couple wraps of the whip finisher. Trim off my thread, trim off the hackle feather, kind of get my wings into shape here. Make sure all that hackle's nice and out of the way. Typically speaking, we're going to make the wing about the same length as the body. There is a complete foam-bodied March Brown Para-Wulff. Great floater, obviously a lot of things incorporated in there. Pretty realistic wing design on it. It's been working really well this spring. Again, one of my favorites. I hope it's one of yours too.